Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. This is going to be my Walking Dead finale video. We got to talk about All Out War Season 8 stuff, so just careful for spoilers if you haven't seen it yet. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get everything, and there's a new round of the giveaway. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber, leave a comment on this video. It was a crazy finale, but I did feel like the first half hour could have just been rapidly sped up and we would have spent more time with that big payoff at the end with Shiva rolling in like a boss. So they were relatively faithful to the comics. They overlapped a little bit with the beginning of Volume 20 All Out War. Most of this season was March to War, but they really stretched it out and they swapped out like the big comic book death. So I'll explain that as we go through top 10 WTF and Easter eggs. Number 10, Sasha's coffin. So they keep jumping back and forth between her listening to that song, which is basically narrating what's going on in her head. Everything's gonna be great, everything will be fine. This is the way it's meant to go down. She keeps jumping back to Abraham, which it seems like actually happened in the past before the events of the Season 5 finale when they took off and everything went to shit when they ran into Negan's men and Abraham and Glenn ended up dying. So if you were confused about what was happening in here, yeah, she's hallucinating this, but it's a memory that she had before they rolled out. Like she's saying, don't go, I had this dream about you dying. So she's talking about a dream, kind of within a dream, but technically it's a memory. And you sort of get the setup that Negan wants to use her as bait to try and get the survivors to turn over their weapons. Number 9 though, Dwight has a plan. So this is all comic book stuff. Dwight wants to turn on Negan, wants to see him dead. There was a nice callback at the end of the episode where he tries to apologize to Daryl. In a way, he left that little chess piece as a way to tell Daryl, I didn't know that you were going to be betrayed by the Garbage Pail Kids. I didn't know that Sasha was going to kill herself. So it was a nice arc for both of their characters. They have a very special relationship because at the beginning of the episode, he wants to stab his face off. And then he says, even after it's all said and done, no matter what Dwight does, it's not going to be over between them. So obviously they're setting up a redemption arc for Dwight's character. It's right out of the comics. If you want, you can actually read ahead if you don't care about spoilers, but it's going to be a big thing next season. And because Daryl is not a comic book character, it'll be fun to see how he reacts to that. Number 8, Hilltop, the Kingdom, and the Garbage Pail Kids all roll out. Totally loved Ezekiel in this episode. I love his cheer for the glory of victory. Like he tries to get Morgan to not throw his life away. He has that barrier set up with the shopping carts. Like he's planning on taking on any saviors that come by himself. So he's like, come with us. Don't throw your life away. So I was so happy that Morgan showed up at the end of the episode. If he's gonna have to go out, you want him to go out in a blaze of glory. You don't want him to go out by himself. But Ezekiel is one of those characters whose arc got changed big time. During March to War, he already has an alliance with Hilltop set up. Rick is the one who's still broken, and Ezekiel has to talk him into it. So that's how their alliance comes together. So on the TV show, they just made Rick the person to go around and convince Ezekiel to join up. So comic book Ezekiel is just a little more hardcore, but the end of the episode, pretty much like the last 10 minutes of the episode, was right off of the page of the comic book. So even though they changed the way they got there, they still did the same payoff that they did in the comics. Number 7, Garbage Pail Kids revolt. I think a lot of people were expecting this just because Jadis was so shady. There was that funny moment with Rick, like they tried to ease the tension a little bit. Hey, when you're done with him, I could totally take a turn. Rick slowly backs away. But the important thing to remember about them is even though they're scum, they're complete garbage as their name implies. They betrayed the survivors, so what's to say that they wouldn't also betray Negan given the opportunity? There was this moment at the end of the episode where Jadis is like, you promised us 12, and Negan's like, nope, 10, I'm not going to give you the full terms of the agreement. And she stands there looking at him for a minute, and you just wonder what's going on in her head. So she might be making plans to double-cross Negan in the future, so there's always the chance the Garbage Pail Kids could flip sides again, because by Dwight's explanation, first they had to take care of the sanctuary, then they had to get more people and then go after the satellite stations. So talk about hanging threads. The one big thing they didn't pay off this season is Heath. I don't know if they forgot about him or if they're just waiting till season 8, but the key card is a very big thing. That's part of the satellite stations. So even if they were able to take the sanctuary down, that wouldn't be the end of the saviors. They'd have to go around to all the satellite stations. So that's just like a big season 8 thing they have to deal with. But number 6, Sasha says her last goodbyes to Abraham. I love the speech that he gave to her. It was like the last moment before they opened the coffin up for the big reveal, where he's like, look, you want to stay behind, but you're a good person. We put ourselves on the line for other people, for Maggie, because she's carrying the future. So that's sort of the same thing that Rick and Michonne were talking about. Like, look, if I die, if you die, it doesn't matter. It's not for us. It's for everyone else. It's for the future. They're basically talking about Carl and all the young people. They're going to be the ones to enter the promised land. The funny thing about that, though, is that Robert Kirkman says that there's no end in sight for the Walking Dead comic, so you almost wonder if they're ever actually going to get to that future. It's like this mythical endpoint that the show is never going to get to, the comics are never going to get to. So it's just kind of funny. Even though they're making this new world, they're trying to lay their lives on the line. So number 5, we get the Sasha reveal. She took the pill, comes out a walker, and it's the Holly death from the comics, or at least a version of it. So the change is that Negan actually knew that she was a walker and was going to use her as a weapon against the Saviors. But on the TV show, Negan didn't know anything about that. So it was a slight twist on the person and the way it went down. But she is able to do some crazy damage. We will miss her so much. Sasha was a great character towards the end. She got pretty badass in the last couple of seasons. But if you didn't know, she's actually going on Star Trek Discovery. She's going to be a main cast member. So last year, when they made the casting announcement, most of us were like, hey, wait a minute, isn't this a spoiler for her on the TV show? She's not going to be able to do both of them. So that might mean that she's dead. So there were a lot of questions after we found out she was going to be on Star Trek. And now we have our answer. She is definitely dead. And even though I feel like they didn't need all that build-up, the final moment with Maggie, like where she's crying and she kneels down, that's her finding Walker Sasha, who's still active, and finishing her off. You can kind of hear the knife come out of her sheath. But you will be missed. Sasha, rest in peace. Say hi to Abraham for us. Number 4, shit goes down. Michonne versus the Garbage Woman. Hardcore fight. This is like a version of the fight that Rick had with the governor back during season 4, the last fight that he had where he got his face all bloodied up to a pulp and he basically looked like he was wearing a mask. That's what Michonne looked like after that. All I could think about was post-Governor Rick, but that line that she had was so poignant, "We're the ones who live." So that was a callback to something she said in a previous episode. Brutal victory, nothing less you'd expect from Michonne. It would have been better if it was Jadis just because of the way she was creeping up on Rick and the way she betrayed them, but maybe she'll get an opportunity during season 8. But number 3, just as Negan is swinging Lucille down to kill Carl, Ezekiel, Shiva, the Kingdom, Hilltop roll in like a boss and everything explodes. And I think we can all say that we would have rather had an entire episode of this rather than all the build-up for the first 30 minutes. But the twist is good. I felt like they could have got there a little bit faster. Even the speech that Negan gave about what he was going to do, and Rick's like, "You can take my hands," which was a total comic book moment. But the one thing that tipped my hat to like, okay, maybe this might not happen, is when he said that he was going to kill Carl. Because even if you feel like Chandler Riggs is going to leave the show because he's supposedly going to university, I don't think that they would kill him off. They'd still find a way to bring him back. Like, it'd almost be unforgivable given the people that they killed at the end of last season, or at the beginning of the season, I should say. But number 2, Negan and a handful of the Saviors return. I love the way they get the intro walking by that safety sign. 101 days without an accident, so they're gonna have to change that recently. Negan pretends like he's gonna kill Eugene, and then you get the big wide pan out, "We're going to war." So also right off of the page of the comics, and it also kind of reminds you of Attack of the Clones when the Emperor's watching all the clone troopers just roll out, like, look at the size of this army. This is gonna be crazy. So they want to make it feel like it's insurmountable for the survivors, even with their alliance that they have. But number 1, that final eulogy for Sasha as Maggie's giving her that speech. So if you didn't know what this is from, if you remember a couple seasons ago, I think it was season 5, they were actually watching the sunrise, just sort of reflecting on their lives. It was just meant to be this nice moment with them just thinking about all the stuff they'd been through, where they were headed next, the choices they had made. And Maggie actually says something really important where she talks about how Glenn made a choice to help someone out. And it's a big deep cut for the pilot episode, the very first episode of The Walking Dead. She says, "It started with the two of you. He chose to help you out." She's referring to the time that Rick got stuck in the tank and Glenn radioed him to help him out. "Hey, you, dumbass. Yeah, you in the tank. You cozy in there?"
Hey, you. Dumbass. Yeah, you in the tank. You cozy in there?
So that's their way of invoking Glenn and their philosophy for how they help people. So, some people on Walking Dead turn and betray other people like Eugene betrayed them. some people choose to help other people, and it's sort of a metaphor for what's happening right now. But they use that moment with Glenn to tell that story and sort of make you cry thinking about his life. So let me know what you guys thought of the episode. Obviously, we're going to start with All Out War, and if you want to read ahead, just start with volume 20, All Out War. The beginning of that is actually this moment right here. So like the last 5 minutes of the episode is the beginning of the All Out War comic book. So we can all guess about how long they're going to spend in All Out War. It's a huge event. There's actually like 2 big parts to it. So for sure, if they stretched out Volume 19, March to War, the groups coming together as much as they did during Season 7, just think about how much time they're going to spend during All Out War. But there's way more action. As the name implies, it's All Out War. So I feel like they won't have as many problems with filler episodes. There'll be more action. But you guys can let me know what kind of videos you want me to do, because if everybody's going to bail on The Walking Dead, there's no point in me doing weekly videos. But if you do want me to do specific videos for big comic book events or characters, I'm totally happy to do that too. But what'll happen is in a couple days, I'll do a predictions video for Season 8, and then we can kind of figure out how to do Walking Dead bonus videos in the time between till it premieres again in the fall. But there's still a lot of really cool stuff left to happen. We still have the Whispers that we haven't met yet. There are a couple other groups. So congratulations to the new giveaway winner, Young Dreams. Please private message me on the back end of my channel so I can get your contact details. There's new Batman, there's new Flash comic book stuff. I'll try to do my predictions video for Season 8 as soon as possible. So while you guys wait for that, you can click here for all my other Walking Dead videos, and you can click here for brand new Rick and Morty. Thank you so much for watching. Let's high five. I'll see you guys in the next video.